Hello, and welcome to the Mindful Opus podcast. I'm your host, Jo Zacany, violist with the Cleveland Orchestra, yoga teacher, and coach for classical musicians. Here, we switch from grind to kind in our artistic process so that artists like you can avoid burnout, ditch performance anxiety, and create a thriving, healthy life on and off stage. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, fellow Opus creator, and welcome to episode 9. You may notice I sound a little different. My voice is a little lower. Maybe it's time for me to just bust out that smooth jazz album. But no, I've been sick. I got sick over the holidays. Half my family did, basically. I think it's the flu. It's flu-like. So I'm over the hump enough to sit and record, but you'll have to bear with me with this new tone to my voice. Hopefully it's not too distracting from the content because I'm really excited about this episode today. But I just wanted to tell you, that's why I sound a little different, but we're going to get into it anyway. So here we go, guys. I can't believe we're almost done with season 1. I have absolutely loved creating these podcast episodes, and in deciding what to record today, I wanted to piggyback on last week's episode, where I shared the process I use with clients to help them create their own personal performance framework. But one thing I wanted to make sure I did was that I dedicate an entire episode specifically to something we performers all struggle with, we all experience, and we simply can't escape. And that is performance nerves. So that's what today's about. This episode is once again going to be chock full of information. I will be sharing 7 tools that are rooted in both my personal experience as a performing artist for decades and my experience coaching incredibly talented artists at the highest level and seeing what helps them shine on stage when it counts the most. After each tool, I'll offer an exercise or prompt that you can apply so that by the end of this episode, you will have 7 different tangible ways you can play around with helping yourself and your relationship with nerves. This can be applied more broadly too. If you dread public speaking and have a big presentation coming up, or you're going into an important meeting and want to have your wits about you. Maybe you have a student or a child who really struggles with performance anxiety, or you simply want to experience less stress in circumstances that tend to wig you out. I promise you'll find some answers here that you can apply to your own life and hopefully find a little more ease in whatever event it is that creates all this nervous energy. This is about befriending nerves, after all. If the previous episode was about building an infrastructure to help you work and show up more boldly, with more confidence, and more like yourself, then these tools are here to help when you're feeling most vulnerable and more nervous within that framework. So add these to that performance toolkit we talked about last time, and you'll be more than set for any big event. So in no particular order, let's get started. The first tool is to know your artistic why. Whether it's the growing pains of being a student or the ebbs and flows of taking this art form on professionally, many of us can drift away from our original reasons for getting into music. And that drift leaves us far away from why we love music in the first place. Knowing your purest why can be a great reminder and recalibrator in those stressful moments and help put things into perspective. So for you to bring this into practice, I want you to think of a time when you performed that felt totally aligned. You may have to go back a while in time, and that's okay. I'll give you an example from my own experience. I have a memory from my childhood of soloing with an orchestra. And after the concert, an audience member came up to me with tears in their eyes and said that my playing had moved them to tears. That moment brought me so much meaning and represents the essence, the seed, and the why I do things. That why of trying to make someone's day better is a ripple effect, not only in my playing, my coaching, my yoga teaching, and it's a guiding principle in my life at this point. It's one I have to hold on to with loving boundaries because I have to make sure I'm pleasing myself in the process as well, and that what I'm offering is aligned with my values. More on this coming up. The second tool is to shift from being nervous to excited. I'm not in the game of pushing away nerves. I use them as fuel. Athletes do this by getting pumped up, and frankly, we should too. Scientific studies have found that both anxiety and excitement are high arousal states that share the same core physiological systems, particularly the sympathetic nervous system. And according to Harvard researcher Alison Wood Brooks, reframing your mindset from I'm nervous to I'm excited is what measurably improves your performance. In order to practically apply this, I want you to list ways in which you're excited to show up and do the thing. It can be that you're excited to play this incredible piece of music, or that you love connecting with an audience, or even that you're excited to celebrate it being almost done. Keep those reasons at the forefront of your self-talk for when you're feeling particularly nervous. The third tool is using values as a performance tool. Having clear core values helps you navigate all parts of your life. Everything from relationships, career decisions, and big moments like showing up on stage. According to Brené Brown, values are the deeply held beliefs that guide our choices and our behaviors. So they're not just words of aspiration. They're guiding principles that show up in our life and become the fruits of our labor, the actions that unfold in our day to day. The way for you to apply this as a musician is to realize that courage is a value that all performers embody, whether they know it or not. That's because, again, according to our amazing Brené, courage is the willingness to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Use this definition to reflect on your personal performance experiences and see how perhaps embodying this value of courage can help support you in different ways and help you stay centered within yourself. Also making what you're doing a bigger part of your tapestry. The fourth tool is breathwork. Simply put, when you're nervous, one of the best things you can do is to breathe. That feeling of being anxious or nervous, it's not just your mind thinking that. It's your body embodying that sensation via the nervous system. Those familiar physical responses like an increased heart rate, shallow breathing, tense or shaky muscles, those are all activated by the sympathetic nervous system. That fight or flight response that's reacting to a perceived threat and is supposed to help keep you safe in the presence of danger. But because our software hasn't quite upgraded from the days of being chased in the wild by a tiger, we still get that same wave of adrenaline and cortisol in situations like auditions, public speaking, having a tough conversation, or stepping on stage. Breathwork is one of the most effective tools we have to regulate this response because by intentionally slowing down the breath with a longer exhale, we stimulate the vagus nerve, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, or the body's rest and digest mode. In overly simplistic terms, think of it this way. If you were being chased by a tiger, you wouldn't actually take slow, calm, deep breaths, would you? That fact helps interrupt the brain's cue that there's danger because, again, you can't run fast and breathe nice and calmly, can you? By bringing your body into that calmer state and lowering your heart rate, you reduce your stress hormones, which sends a signal of safety to the brain, allowing the body to move out of survival mode and bringing back some balance and homeostasis to the mix. Here's how you can do this with a slight caveat. Breathwork can sometimes be triggering to some, so please listen to your body and only do what feels good. My suggestion is to try breathing in through the nose for a count of 4, you choose the speed, and exhaling out through pursed lips for a count of 6. And if you don't like that rhythm, remember it's that extended exhale that really matters here. That's what cues the vagus nerve. So play around with it and see what feels good to you. The 5th tool is called the shooshies. This is a fun one, guys. We are renaming nerves. I read about this one in a book that mentioned actors renaming nerves to something a little goofy. And when I tried it on myself, I loved it. So much so that I share this with clients who want a playful workaround their nervous energy. Why I think it works is that it takes that dread and personification, this idea of, quote, I'm nervous, and flips it to something external and a little more lighthearted. And since we know nerves will be there, why not have some fun with them and not take them so seriously? So your how for this one is that next time you're nervous, instead of saying to yourself, oh no, I'm nervous, I want you to say to yourself, oh, there are the shooshies. Bonus if you shimmy your shoulders while saying it. You may think it's silly, but it's bound to make you smile. So give it a try and see if it doesn't make those pesky nerves feel a little less serious. The 6th tool is to catch and reframe perfectionistic thinking. When you're nervous is exactly the time to remind yourself that you are not aiming for perfection. Hopefully, at this point, you have a clear framework for your work around excellence over perfection. And if not, go listen to episode 2, The Perfection Trap, after this. But even if you've done the work, it's when you're most nervous and things feel like they're most at stake that your perfectionism will kick in as a protective mechanism. Know ahead of time what feels like an acceptable outcome, not a perfect one, and let that free you up to be the artist that you ultimately want to be. Your how for this one is to notice if you have thoughts or behaviors exhibiting some perfectionistic tendencies. Thoughts like, I can't make a single mistake, or behaviors like testing that musical passage backstage over and over and over. And instead, reframe towards excellence and curiosity so that you can enjoy your high standards without being crippled by impossible ones. The 7th and final tool is to befriend your negative emotions. I truly can't tell you how many times I've heard clients tell me they just want to feel a certain positive way so that they can get rid of feeling a certain negative way. I want to feel calm instead of scared, or I want to be peaceful, not panicked. And while, of course, this makes sense, it's a little more complicated than that. Research in emotional regulation and neuroscience shows that when we try to suppress or push away unwanted emotions, things like fear, anxiety, frustration, or doubt, they don't just disappear. In fact, that suppression tends to increase your physiological stress, keeping your sympathetic nervous system activated, and making those emotions come back stronger later, a phenomenon known as the rebound effect. It's probably happened to you. You push away something like doubt, you tell yourself you're fine, and right before that tough musical passage, doubt grips you and you choke. You mess up when you never have before. Oh gosh, if this is you, believe me, you are not alone. But the good news here is that multiple studies show naming and allowing an emotion to be there reduces activity in the amygdala. That's there's a tiger in the bushes part of the brain we were talking about earlier, and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for focus, calm, data, decision making, and self-control. In performance terms, When you stop fighting your internal experience and instead acknowledge it with awareness, your nervous system actually settles and calms down. This is one of the core principles of mindfulness. We don't eliminate difficult emotions. We change our relationship to them. And that shift is what makes a world of difference in your emotional regulation, your resilience, and your performance under pressure. So to bring this one to life, I've got a visual exercise for you. I want you to picture yourself as the host of a party. You have all your guests here, and outside your house is an uninvited guest. We'll call this guest Doubt. First, Doubt just peeks through the window, so you close the curtains. What happens? Does Doubt go away? Of course not. It goes over to the door and knocks. If you ignore it then, what happens? It starts banging on the door. So now what do? You invite Doubt in. You open the door. You say, "Hello, Doubt. Welcome to the party." You put your arm around its shoulder and you show it around. Look at these appetizers, these crackers, cookies. Please make yourself a plate. Then you point to a chair in the corner. You see that chair over there? That really comfortable recliner? I would love for you to take your plate and go get cozy. There's a blanket for you over there too. You're welcome to stay and hang out, and please be comfortable. Thanks for being here. I'm going to tend to my other guests now. This imagery is about allowing your negative emotions in with that loving boundary of you being the host. That is what keeps you in control. Once you've befriended your negative emotions, you can relate to them pretty quickly. Sometimes a quick mental, "thanks, not now," is all it takes to diffuse it under pressure. But that, of course, takes practice and it takes time. So start here and see where things go when you stop pushing away unwanted emotions and start befriending them instead. As always, thanks for being here and thanks for bearing with my cold/flu voice. I'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with my regular timbre, for our season finale. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. This whole podcast experience has been so much fun, and I'm really excited about the future. See you soon. Thanks for listening to the Mindful Opus podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider adding the show to your library, write a blurb in the review section, or share it with someone in your circle. For more about my work, you can find me on Instagram at mindfulopus or my website, mindfulopus.com. And while you're there, don't forget to grab that free well-being resource waiting for you. Until next time, my fellow Opus creator, keep creating the life you want, one opus at a time.